For 100 years, scientists knew this animal existed only through fragments, pulled from the stomachs of sperm whales, tangled in fishing lines, already dead by the time anyone saw it. Then, in March 2025, a remotely operated vehicle drifting 600 meters down in the South Atlantic found something. Transparent, delicate, barely a foot long, and unmistakably a colossal squid. The heaviest invertebrate on the planet, caught on camera alive for the very first time in the 100 years since it was named. Welcome back to the Abyss Report. This is the story of the footage that just rewrote a century of mystery.
The colossal squid, Mesonechotuthis hamiltoni, was first formally identified and named in 1925, but for the century that followed, almost nothing about it was seen alive. Scientists studied it entirely through remains, undigested beaks recovered from the stomachs of sperm whales, and occasional dying adults hauled to the surface after becoming tangled in fishing lines near Antarctica. From those fragments, researchers estimated adults could grow up to 23 feet long and weigh as much as 1,100 pounds, making it the heaviest invertebrate known to science, heavier than the more famous giant squid, even if not quite as long. But an actual living colossal squid, swimming freely in its own habitat, had simply never been recorded. Not once. Not by anyone.
That changed on March 9, 2025. A research vessel called the Falkor, operated by the Schmidt Ocean Institute, was surveying the remote waters near the South Sandwich Islands in the South Atlantic as part of an expedition searching for undiscovered marine life. The team lowered a remotely operated vehicle named Sebastian down to a depth of roughly 600 meters, nearly 2,000 feet below the surface. As the ROV's cameras panned across the dark water, something drifted into frame. A small glassy shape, almost invisible against the black. The pilots kept the camera steady. Whatever it was, it clearly wasn't ordinary. Within minutes, footage was being sent to squid specialists on the other side of the world for identification. What the cameras had captured was a juvenile colossal squid, barely 30 centimeters long, with a completely transparent body. At this stage of life, colossal squid are almost glass-like, allowing biologists to see straight through parts of their anatomy. A delicate, fragile version of an animal, usually associated with monster mythology. As it matures, that transparency fades, and the body eventually turns a deep, opaque red. One of the scientists who helped confirm the footage said afterward that seeing it alive, drifting peacefully in the dark, was nothing like the fearsome reputation the species has carried for a century. This wasn't a kraken. It was closer to watching a glass sculpture quietly breathing. Here's where people usually get confused. The colossal squid and the giant squid are not the same animal, and they're not even closely related. The giant squid lives in temperate oceans worldwide, can grow slightly longer overall, and has famously never been safely filmed near the surface because rising into warmer water would put it into lethal temperature shock. The colossal squid lives almost exclusively in the freezing Antarctic, where the water temperature barely changes between the surface and the deep sea. That's actually part of why this sighting was even possible. Without a sharp temperature barrier to avoid, a colossal squid can occasionally be found closer to the surface than a giant squid ever could. The two species also look different up close. Colossal squid have sharp hooks on the middle of their 8 arms, something giant squids simply don't have. And while giant squid can technically stretch longer thanks to their long feeding tentacles, colossal squid are built heavier and bulkier overall, which is exactly why they hold the title of the heaviest invertebrate on Earth, not the longest.
So why did it take a full century? Because the Southern Ocean around Antarctica is one of the most remote, least visited stretches of water on the planet. Expeditions capable of operating remotely piloted vehicles at these depths in these conditions are rare and expensive. Most of what scientists knew about the colossal squid came from creatures that were already dying or already dead by the time a human ever saw them. Finding a living one, healthy, unbothered, drifting naturally through its own habitat, required exactly the right expedition in exactly the right place, pointing a camera in exactly the right direction at exactly the right moment.
And remarkably, this wasn't even the only historic squid sighting from that expedition. Just weeks earlier, on a previous leg of the same research vessel's mission, the same team filmed the first confirmed footage of a completely different species, the glacial glass squid, found in the icy waters near Antarctica's Bellingshausen Sea. Two never-before-filmed squid species caught alive on camera on back-to-back expeditions within the same season. For a research team, that kind of run doesn't happen by luck alone. It's a sign of just how little of this specific stretch of ocean has ever actually been surveyed. The Institute's own director said the sightings were a reminder that the ocean is still brimming with mysteries yet to be solved. And it's hard to argue with that. In one research season, in one remote corner of the Southern Ocean, scientists documented two entirely new chapters in the biology of animals that had existed in scientific literature for decades.
This matters beyond just squid. The colossal squid sighting proves something important. Even the most legendary, most mythologized deep-sea animals, the ones that inspired Kraken stories for centuries, are still capable of surprising us the moment we actually go looking properly. It's not that these animals are impossible to find. It's that almost nobody has been looking in the right places with the right equipment for long enough. Every year, remotely operated vehicles reach slightly deeper, expeditions reach slightly more remote water, and cameras roll a little longer. And every time that happens, something that existed only in scientific footnotes for a century has a chance to finally be seen, alive, for the first time.
A century of mystery, solved by one accidental encounter with a remotely operated camera 600 meters down in one of the most remote patches of ocean on Earth. The colossal squid is real. It's alive, and for the first time, we've actually seen it swim. If an animal this famous could stay unseen for 100 years, it makes you wonder what else is still out there, waiting for the right camera to find it. Subscribe to the Abyss Report. Next week, we go looking for the next one. See you in the deep.